You ready?
I'm ready.
Yes, sir. All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of More with Stumpo with me, the host, Matt Stumpo. Today I have the very special guest, Brady Clements. Brady,
Right.
how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, man.
Thank you so much for coming on. I'm
Sure,
super
no problem.
excited.
Look forward to it.
Yeah, I'm excited that you came, and you came dressed up in that awesome shirt too.
Yeah, hey, I wear these are Robert Graham shirts. I wear a lot of them. I enjoy it, man. And my wife gets them for me.
Well, that's really nice. She's got some taste.
She does.
My wife's got some taste.
She's
too.
fabulous. Best wife in the world. Hold on, she's gonna watch this, right?
I hope so.
I probably look in the camera. Best wife in the world. No, she really is. We've known each other since 6th grade. She's absolutely my best friend.
We're gonna have to talk more about that here.
Yeah,
in a second.
we can do
That's
it.
awesome. So
Yeah.
you own SPG Roofing
and Restoration. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And I've seen your trucks around. We were just talking about it. I've seen your trucks around everywhere. I think it's really cool. So it's the orange and blue lettering.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome. So how's the roofing and restoration going? Has it been taken off?
Oh man, it's going really well. Yeah, I mean we obviously have. I mean I've got this. I don't want to say silly thing on, but I mean we're trying to be mindful of and respectful of social distancing and all these kinds of crazy things, which makes it difficult because a lot of our sales are individuals. We're up at their house. We do a lot of commercial work, but still. Our bread and butter, numbers of jobs are just meeting with people, so we're having to be socially distanced and wear our masks and all these kinds of things. So it's a little bit challenging for that reason, but we had a good year last year, and we're really set up to have a great year this year too. That's
awesome. So when you started this company,
yeah,
what was the reasoning behind it?
Oh man, I was wanting to start a roofing company for years. I was doing my own roofs, kind of general contracting them, overseeing them for years and years and years. I started out, my first real estate purchase was a hotel. I was a partner with some guys. We bought some hotels down in Florida and converted them into condominiums. And then I kind of became in charge of running those while the other partners were out finding more deals. And we got hit by a hurricane down in Florida. It was in Fort Myers. And so I did my first roofs, what was probably 2000, 1999. Hurricane Charlie, I think was the name of it. And so we put roofs on, and I've just always been super intrigued by it. And I've owned as many as 30 commercial buildings here in central Indiana.
Wow.
Yeah. Sounds like a lot. I guess it is a lot, but
it's a lot when you say
it's just kind of 30. Wow.
I have a house. That's all I got.
Man, it's just what it's really not as big a deal as people think it is. I just provide a place for other people to do their business, run their businesses. It's real exciting for that reason. And I've owned office spaces, industrial parks. Retail centers, things of that nature. And I remember going out in 2005 to Las Vegas to the retail convention. And one of my business partners was with me, and we were walking around, and all of these prospective tenants were there. And I mean, it's just really out there thing where you're meeting up with the tenants and blah, blah, blah. And it's in a huge building. I mean, thousands of booths. And then there was a smaller building over here with maybe 100 booths of all the maintenance stuff. And man, I was just so intrigued. I love making things better than what they are. And so I looked at how we were handling the retail centers that we had just bought. Eventually, my partners bought me out of the Florida projects when they got a great big project. And then I brought on 2 partners, and we bought them out of 5 retail centers up here. And then one of those partners and I expanded. We bought 16 more, and then we bought a whole bunch more. And it's been a really, really good run. But getting back to Vegas, I mean, I was just so intrigued with, roofing maintenance, trash cans. I mean, how do you walk into Walt Disney World and there's never any trash anywhere? I mean, people go to your retail centers, and that makes a big difference. It makes a big difference for my clients. If you drive up to a retail center and it looks like, just a bomb went off, you don't want to shop there. You feel differently about the retail. You feel differently about the customer you're going to. And so what I've always tried to do is make sure that I can take care of all the controllables. So do the easy things. We pick up trash. We salt sidewalks. We plow snow. I mean, you do the easy things, and we do roofs as part of of what we were doing. So that just kind of grew into, I want to own a roofing company. And so several years ago, I'd been telling people for years I wanted to do it. And one of the people I told I wanted to do it said, "Hey, are you serious about wanting to do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want to do it." And so I did it. And it's kind of grown. I expected to do about $1 million in year one. And, I kept saying the whole time I want to run a different kind of roofing company. So many of these roofing companies, I mean, they're just, there are some really good roofing companies out there, and there are some that just really aren't.
Yeah.
And people should do their research. And but a lot of them are just not great at customer service, not great at integrity, things of that nature. I have always had a really good reputation as a business person, and so when I thought I would do $1 million on roofs, all of a sudden I found this huge pent up demand of people looking for somebody who will stand by their work, do quality work, take care of the customer, put the customer first, things of that nature. There's a good profit margin. There's a great profit margin if you got corners. There's a good profit margin if you do it right. I'm fine with just a good profit margin. So we do it right.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That's really good to hear, because there's a lot of guys that, in the service that I work in, there's a lot of guys that own their own businesses.
Oh, sure.
And a huge thing for where I work at is integrity, like you just said, and putting in good work, because word travels.
Yeah.
I would rather choose somebody who puts out a great product, who's not making a ton of money on the side from what they're doing, like what you said with cutting quarters. I'd rather go with a guy who's going to do it right, do it best, but do it right the first time, and treat me right. I'd rather give him my business any day.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we do that makes it really hard for us sometimes is we follow the law. That makes it hard sometimes. How dare me? Doggone it.
Follow the law.
I told my first hire, I said, we just won't. We won't compromise on that, and that's going to lose us deals. And I told him when we started, I'm like, you just have to be fine with, we're going to always do the right thing. He had told me about all these kinds of slick ways of trying to get right deductibles off, and the more I researched it, the more I found out you're wrong. You can't write deductibles off. The Indiana legislature spoke. The insurance industry has a lot of power. They want you to pay your deductible when you have a claim. A lot of roofers don't do that. I had a roofer recently call me Pollyannic, old school, and I'm like, okay, well, you can call me all the names you want. I'm following the law. Now, if you want to try and find ways around the law, that's on you. But we have to charge deductibles when people have deductibles, and I tell people all the time, if you don't want to pay the deductible, and Joe Schmo, you want to go with Joe Schmo, and they're going to write your deductible off. If they're willing to break the law, if you're willing to break the law, here's my advice. Take the money you would have spent on the deductible, go buy yourself a GoPro, set up in the front yard, make sure they do everything they say they're going to do. Did they put ice and water all around the perimeter? Did they put synthetic felt on? Did they put enough nails in your shingles? I mean, every one of those things are cost-cutting measures if you don't do them. If nobody's looking, you can get away a little bit here, a little bit there. You make more money. Yeah. Well, we always do the right thing. We may make a little less money. I'm okay with that.
That's actually really interesting that you mentioned that. A lot of people, like you mentioned earlier, I can't remember if it was before the recording or just after we started, but a lot of people need to be doing their research. Yeah. So what's a good way to do your research? Like at some point, I want a new roof.
Yeah,
I do, because I'm tired of that nasty, ugly brown color, and I want a black one.
Yeah,
and I think that will look a lot better than when I paint the house. It'll look really good.
Yeah.
So what's some of the research that I can do to follow up with, like what you just said? That stuff I've done roofs before. Like I've put a. I want to make sure that's not vibrating.
Oh, that's me actually.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's one of my employees, Anthony Varnes. Can I
go
put
ahead,
him up there?
Go ahead and take it.
Want me to take it?
Yeah. What I'll do is I'll just press pause.
Oh no, we don't need to press pause. Yeah. Anthony, what up? His name's AJ. I call him Anthony. I'm on a podcast right now. You're actually on a podcast with me. Everything good? All right. Just call me back. I called you earlier. All right. Your daughter okay? Okay. All right, Bubba. I'll talk to you later. All right. See ya. Bye.
You want me to take that out later? Or
keep it in there.
Perfect. That's
Anthony
fine.
Varnes.
Anthony, he sounds like a good guy.
Yeah, AJ Varnes. He's good guy. He's worked for me for 15 years.
Awesome.
So,
if you guys want to see AJ Varnes, hire him as your roofing guy.
There you are. You can do a lot of different kinds of research. I mean, some of the ways. I mean, there are people that I mean, you can do some research on the owner is one way. Find out who the owner's name is. Type some Google stuff in on that. mycase.in.gov gives you criminal history even of people. You can look to that kind of stuff up if you want.
A really good idea.
Yeah. I mean, Better Business Bureau, Google, things of that nature. I mean, one of the ways that you can certainly tell is has somebody been in business for a long time. One of the roofing business is such that there's such a low barrier to entry, and it's so disappointing. I mean, we do have convicted felons that own roofing companies. We do have people that have not done the right thing. We've got people still in the industry that were caught allegedly damaging roofs on their own, and they just go from one company to another, or they start another company, and we've got some great roofing companies out there, though, too. We're certainly. I feel like we're a good roofing company. There's a lot of good roofing companies. Check with people's experience with them. Find out whether ask for some references. We're not afraid to give you references. I'm probably going to give you good references, so you kind of have to take that into consideration. But and everybody else is too. But you can check references. That's one way of doing it too. Not everything runs smoothly. I don't mind telling you about somebody that things didn't run smoothly on. I mean, we have had so many. 2020 was miserable. We had so many product problems in terms of the suppliers being able to get us stuff due to the Rona. I'd say the China virus. That's probably not.
You can say China.
Can I say China virus?
I say China virus too.
China virus.
Yeah.
That's terrible, man. Disclaimer: China may or may not have, according to the World Health Organization, been the origin of COVID-19. So anyway, but yeah, we had a lot of problems with supplies last year, and it's tough when you're trying to tell people a timeline of how you're going to perform, and things outside of your control you can't always control. So I'd like to talk to people sometimes about how things went well and how things didn't go well. I mean, sometimes clients that things didn't go well on. Now nobody's perfect, but how did the company handle it when things didn't go perfectly? We always put the customer first. We always try and protect their property. Aesthetically, some things may not go right on the timeline because we can't get things, but we're not going to jump into something that we don't think we can keep your property safe.
That's actually pretty cool because I've the rarity of me hiring a company to come do something here.
Yeah.
The more honest they
Man, I looked around your house.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to talk about that?
Sure.
Let's talk about it. Man, you got a lot of projects going on.
Yeah.
You're killing it, dude. You're not afraid to jump in.
No. My biggest thing is my dad taught me to, I'll make this very short. This isn't about me. This is more about you. My dad taught me growing up, like, if you're going to do something, if you need something done, figure it out yourself.
Absolutely.
And unless you need a professional opinion. And plumbing, professional's opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Electrical. Please get a professional's, not just opinion. Have them actually do it.
Yeah. So what I do,
a lot of the trades. That's what we do. I do the same thing.
So if it's a plumbing or electrical, I stay away from that stuff.
Yeah.
Me putting up ceiling fans, you can ask my wife about it. I ripped a ceiling fan out of the ceiling after I installed it, turned it on, and then a puff of smoke came out like a cartoon. And I just grabbed it and just pulled it right out of the ceiling.
That's a no.
That's a no for me. It's not a good idea. So I stay away from that stuff. But
I think you've probably responded to a few cases where people have done their own electrical.
Exactly. And a lot of that stuff is like electrical extension cords. That probably should have been rid of a long time ago.
If 18 gauge is good, 14 is better. 12 is even better. Let's go 6 or 8 every once in a while, depending on what you see. People put a refrigerator. It's like, I think I got this extension cord over here. We can just use it. No,
exactly, yeah.
You can't just use it. It's not good. No.
But but thank you very much, man. My wife and I, we like doing things on our own. We try to do the best we can.
Yeah.
Yes, we're remodeling our home. Hopefully,
it looks fantastic. You're doing a great job.
I really appreciate that. Thank you. That means a lot coming from you.
Yeah.
But so more about you. So
more about me, less about you. All right.
That's right.
I'm good with
this
that.
Ain't about me.
Yeah.
No one needs to know about me. But so your
I'm not that interesting either. Let's talk about that.
You are a pretty interesting guy. For me, looking at your Facebook page and from what I could find on the internet, you've got a lot going. You own a couple it seems like strip centers. You own the
Skyline Property Group is my main company that we just celebrated our 10th anniversay. Prior to that, I owned Horizon Property Group, and I was a partner in Cornerstone Investments for a while. Those are all 3 property management companies. Wow. And I was a founder of Horizon Property Group. I sold that name to my co-founder, and he still runs that company today. So it's been in business since I guess 2015, and then I started Skyline in late 2010. So it's been a really, really good thing for me and my family.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's starting businesses. I mean, you've got to be.
I had over 30 of them at one point.
30?
Yeah, because you got each individual retail center is its own LLC. So
really?
yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, business interests me a lot. I'm more interested in skilled trades. That's where I thrive. I thrive at skilled trades. I did all my own framing in there. Granted, I called a couple people. I called a buddy of mine that.
Well, now you know me. You can call me.
Yeah,
I
and
can
I'll
tell
be probably calling you
Absolutely,
a lot to ask you questions. But like with business, so for people out there that are not in the business world, you went and got a degree in business.
I did. I have a degree from Indiana University, Kelley School of Business,
and you graduated.
I did graduate.
We talked about
it took six years, man. It's okay.
No, that's
it's
right.
okay.
What year was it?
I'm not embarrassed. 1991.
1991. That's what I wanted to hear.
My wife and everybody else graduated in '89. I graduated in '91.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, I didn't tell you beforehand. I told you it took 6 years, but I worked my way through. That's so awesome. I had. There were times during my college career that I had as many as 3 jobs at the same time. So I'd work delivering papers. I delivered papers for years. I even delivered paper after I graduated from college. I delivered papers for a while as a second job to my real job, and graduated with no debt. And that was not easy to do. I was hit by a drunk driver while I was in college, and so that cost me about a semester. I was in a wheelchair for 3 months, was in intensive care for about a month, and so that cost me a little bit of time, but then I got out and went after it, man.
You didn't give up.
No, you can't give up. No, the doctors told me I'd never walk normal again. I've had my face rebuilt twice, both wrists. My shoulder's been rebuilt, my right wrist twice, both knees, my left ankle twice.
All in that one accident.
Yeah, the shoulder was high school, but everything else is that accident. Yeah, man, it was bad.
Well, what I think is admirable that you paid for it yourself.
Yeah,
college.
Yeah, my dad helped me with my first several semesters of tuition, and he did absolutely everything he could. Always, he had 2 other kids he was trying to raise and pay for too. So when I transferred, I went to Ball State and he helped me with that, and then I transferred to IUPUI and lost most of my credits because Ball State was on a quarter system. IU was on a semester system. So yeah, I did it myself, and I think it's been a real blessing. I was able to do it. I think it helped encourage my brother and my sister to eventually go to college, and both of them graduated. They're doing great in life, and I never even thought about college, man. I was in high school, basically an inner city school, Fort Wayne inner city school. We bussed. It was out in the suburbs, not really the suburbs, but we had busing, and I mean it was like an IPS school. I mean Indiana Fort Wayne Community Schools, and it was not great sometimes, but I didn't know anything about college. Had no idea I was going to go to college, and shout out to my choir director and our administration at our school. They eventually pulled me out and had me tested and said, "Gee, son, you thinking about college?" And I'm like, "I ain't going to college. I'm going into sales, man. It's gonna be great. And if that doesn't work out, I'm going to Dana's where my dad works. It'll be fine." And they're like, "No, you really ought to think about college." And they really encouraged me to do it, and I'm really happy. It's something that nobody can ever take away from you. I can't speak enough about IUPUI in terms of the quality of education that I got there from Indiana University. The breadth of education from their business program really enables somebody to do what I've done. I mean, I have to be able to read financial sheets. I have to be able to market myself. I have to make sure that I can do the accounting. I have to make sure I can manage other people. And I learned all that at school. That's something that whenever I talk to people now about when they go to school, there's people that I graduated high school with that I did one semester in school. I don't want to talk about my one semester. I got a little bit of trouble for my paper I wrote, which I did what I was told to do. Hey,
that's all we're going to talk about.
There we are.
So
please look up on the internet.
If you ask the dean,
the dean of,
I had to meet with them.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I ask people about when they went to college, and I've talked to other people about this on the podcast. I talked to Joe Hubbard about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
There's people that will.
Joe's a good dude, man.
Joe's a great.
Joe
guy.
was a client of mine at one point.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Any dirt on him?
Oh, dude, I got lots of dirt on him. Do we want to say it on film?
We'll say it afterwards.
Okay, afterwards.
We'll say
We'll talk about him afterwards.
I was actually talking to him before you came over.
Yeah.
I love Joe. Yeah, we hang out all the time.
Joe was supposed to go skiing with me this year, and
yeah,
he had to bail.
He was telling me about that.
Yeah,
I thought that was funny. I was just like, dude, you skiing?
It would have been great. I think he's going to go next year. Joe, you got to go next year. You're invited next year, so we hope to have you next year.
He's hitting me up. He's like, you got a helmet? And he's like, did I ever give you a helmet? I'm like, what? He's like,
why would you give me a helmet?
Yeah, he gives me all the. I'm about his size, so whenever he's getting new equipment, he sends me his old clothes or whatever equipment, and I wear it.
There you are.
And these are his shorts.
Perfect.
They fit great.
They look great.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And like he's like, did I ever give you a helmet? I'm like, why would you give me a helmet? He's like, well, I'm going skiing and I need a helmet. I'm like, all right, man. Like,
is that a good way of asking you? Do you have a helmet?
I have a
Hey,
helmet.
Joe, just ask. Do I have a helmet? Yeah. No, I don't have a helmet. I haven't been out skiing much.
Yeah, I don't go out skiing. I got dirt bike helmets. I
don't think it's the same thing, man.
I don't know.
No,
it probably is.
We started wearing them. That was my 19th year trip with a bunch of guys that we go out there, and we started wearing them after Sonny Bono died and Kennedy died, and all kinds of people died, and man, there were no helmets. Beaver Creek's where we go. There were no helmets in Beaver Creek. I mean, we were all out just flying away, man. I had a great like a beaver skin hat. It was great. It was warm. It was wonderful. And then one year, one of my buddies decided to wear a helmet, and the rest of us are like, dude, what's up with you? What's up with the helmet? And we're making fun of him, and it was like 5 days in a row making fun of him. It was I think the year a couple people died from hitting trees.
Really?
And and so we're making fun of him. The next year, every one of us showed up with a helmet, and we've all had a helmet ever since.
Hey, it's a smart thing. Riding dirt bikes. I have smoked my head on the ground a ton, and I'm just like,
is that what's wrong? I mean,
yeah,
that's probably what's wrong with you. Yeah,
that and my mom dropped me a lot.
Yeah, a lot. You were a big boy.
Yeah,
she's
both
small.
Of us. We both were carrying us both, and both slapping her in the face whenever we were walking around. I'm kidding. I didn't slap my mom in the face.
No, we're editing that out, Mom. So,
we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that later.
But when I talked to Joe about it, like there's a lot of other kids that I grew up with and graduated with. They're like, I said, what'd you go to school for?
Look at you, right on topic, man. You came right back to it. That's good. That's great.
I'm learning.
Yeah, I'm
good. Getting better at it. Especially with Jay Hart.
Because I'm all over the place. You can't talk to Jay. Jay's all over the place.
Jay is all over the. I love him, but he's all over the place. And then at the end of it, he's like, you got to rein me in sometimes.
Yeah, you got to bring it back, man. You got to pull it right back to starting a business, running a business. Yeah,
we'll get right back to about your wife too here in a sec. It's something that I got to do better at, anyways.
Yeah, you need notes, man. Just take notes.
If I do notes, then I sit here and read them the whole time,
and then people look at what's he reading? Like, text messages.
That's being.
Put that in the comments. Put that in the comments next time you guys just.
Yeah, please comment on this.
Yeah, Matt, quit reading your text.
If I write them down, then I'm going to sit here and read it. So I have to go off of memory with a lot of stuff.
You got it, man.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
But I talked to him about kids going to school, and I talked to kids that went to school. I'm like, so what'd you go for? And then they'd say, when I say kids, I mean people my age or younger.
Yeah.
Like,
those were kids to me.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't born yet when you graduated college.
You turn blue lights on. I don't know how. Is that going to make my hair even more silver? I mean, what's up with that? I mean, I should have said different color. Doggone
it. I'll do that in editing. I'll make your hair,
good.
I'll make your hair darker.
Darker, that'd be great.
Actually, if I can do that, I'll try it. I'll actually really try it. I think that'd be hilarious.
That'd be hilarious.
I'll do like pink hair or something.
That'd be great,
man.
I don't
know what's going on.
Yeah.
But I talked to them, and they'd say whatever. I don't want to mention.
I signed a disclosure, didn't I? I mean,
nope.
You can't do that kind of stuff, can you? Where is that form?
It's in the trash.
It's in the trash. All right, cool. Yeah.
So I talked to them, and I don't want to mention the degrees they would get, but it's just like, so what are you going to do with that? Nothing, man. Like, so how much school debt did you rack up? Well, I've got about 40,000. I've got about 60,000.
It's a shame. It's a shame. You know. Yeah. And I sure we'll get to politics at some point. I think it's a political problem. I mean, I guess I'm part of the problem. I have 7 kids. 6 of them will be college graduates.
You got a beautiful family, by the
thank
way.
you so very much. I'm so proud of my family.
Photo.
I love my family. It's the absolute pride.
Awesome.
I absolutely love my family. I'm so proud of all of them for different reasons.
That's cool.
But I'm part of the problem. I thought everybody needed to go to college, and in 2021, I don't know that I necessarily feel that way anymore. If you don't know what you want to do, and if you It does. If you don't know what you want to do, it doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't become a college freshman and do some exploration and things of that nature. If you're academically suitable to college, what I have problems with is the cost of education. I paid for my own college. Okay. And let me hurt my shoulder trying to pat myself on the back. Dude, it wasn't that expensive. Surviving was expensive. I mean, I had to feed myself an apartment and, all these kinds of things. That was expensive.
When you were younger, college wasn't as expensive.
It wasn't. And it just doesn't need to be as expensive as it is. And we've really let these universities get out of control. I mean, Indiana University, Purdue University, those are state colleges. $30,000 to go to college. I feel terrible. That's just out of reach for a lot of people without racking up a significant amount of college debt. Mm-hmm. And I really don't know when it became mom and dad's responsibility to pay for your college. I mean, I paid for the majority of my college expenses. I didn't think of it at the time as some sort of huge burden. I wanted to go to college. Mm-hmm. So I paid for what I could afford to pay for. I worked jobs. I paid for it. My dad did everything he could do. I mean, and my mom didn't have any money.
That's just good parenting.
They did everything they did. They were great parents. They did everything they could do for me. It gave me a great childhood. I don't have any.
That's awesome.
Nothing good to talk about counselors about my childhood, but it just wasn't that expensive. And nowadays, everybody has to go. So it's just a continuation of your childhood, really. Mm-hmm. We've extended healthcare coverage to 26. Nobody's then getting married until they're 30.
People aren't encouraged to get married.
They are not encouraged to get married at all.
Encouraged to get married.
But college shouldn't be. How does my man Mitch up in Purdue reduce tuition costs? How does he tell a college freshman you're going to pay the same thing now that you pay 4 years from now? How is he able to do that? It's called cost control. It's called business, running it as a business, not having a bunch of, I promised myself I wasn't going to use the L word.
Losers?
Liberal.
Oh, liberals.
So they're synonyms.
I wouldn't say just liberal. It's a lot of Democrat policies.
It is not good for our country. You can't just have a bevy of tenured professors sitting around teaching one or two classes, getting paid enormous amounts of money, continue with unfettered growth in your buildings, build more, bigger is better. Man, I remember at IUPUI, I mean, the campus that I went to is not really the campus that's there today. The campus that's there is twice as big as it was. But, I mean, we were sitting in what nowadays would be like a nice conference room and learning. My education wouldn't have been any better if it had all been wrapped in brick, or if I'd had my own blah 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 here in front of me on my table. We were just big long benches with big long tables, and we sat there and learned. And it's been such a difference in my life, and the building had nothing to do with it. The professors had a lot to do with it, mm-hmm. But I don't know that I buy into a tenured professor teaching 2 or 3 classes making $180,000 or $150,000. It's like, a lot of people want to do that job that would do it for a lot less money. Mm-hmm. And I understand the reason for tenure. I do believe in academic. I do believe in some ways with academic liberalism. So, I one of my favorite professors in college was Richard Fredlin. He was a department chair for the political science department. He was a espoused communist / socialist.
Wow.
And I learned so much from that man. And I think that's what college should be about. I disagree with him. I mean, dude, I carried a briefcase to college. I wore a shirt and tie. So I've come a long way. Yeah. I have work boots on.
Yeah.
But man, I was Michael P. Keaton. I had the Wall Street Journal under my arm. I read the Wall Street Journal every day from front to back. Knew what was going on in the world, and I just went at it with Dr. Fredlin, and I learned so much from it. And the other students were like, I read the Communist Manifesto twice. Dude, it's a great book. You ever read it?
No,
it's a great book.
I'm sure it's a fantastic book. Put it into practice.
Completely unapplicable. You can't do it.
You cannot put it in practice.
The only problem is that there's humans involved in it, mm-hmm. and all of it falls apart at that point. And one of my favorite books is Animal Farm by Orwell.
George Orwell.
And some of the same things. It's basically talking about liberalism and all the, hey, we're all going to be equal until we're not. Hey, it's all going to be fair until it's not. And that's the inevitable end to where most of those policies go. And so I understand why you need tenure for a professor so that he can speak his mind. I wouldn't have learned as much if he hadn't been so far left. It enabled me to understand, there are some things I agree with him. There really are. And there are some things I really, really desperately disagree with him. The problem in politics today that I find globally, nationally, maybe even locally, is I can agree to disagree with somebody who wants to get someplace that I want to get to. And I'm conscious of the fact that, there's lots of roads. If I want to drive to the Greenwood Park Mall from your house, I can get there. I can go lots of different ways. And I'm not so set that my way is the only way. And I think that's the problem sometimes with liberals and conservatives is that they get the impression, the idea that their ideas are the only ideas. I like bigger picture ideas, and if as long as somebody's trying to get there with me, I'm good with them. Mm-hmm. I can disagree with them as long as we can talk respectfully. The problem with social media has become it's just almost impossible to speak respectfully to anybody anymore. I mean, everybody's got one of these, and they're always very brave and very informed. I mean, they know everything. They know everything that Fox News told them, or they know everything that CNN told them. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I think that describes they know everything Fox told them when they're a conservative. They know everything CNN tells them when they're a liberal. MSNBC. I mean, there's a whole lot of opportunity to take in the liberal side of things. There's not as many. There's becoming maybe a few more with Newsmax and various other things. But it's hard. I try to partake in both sides, and I'm tough. I say I'm a conservative Republican, but I really think of myself as a Reagan Republican. And man, in today's right and left wing world, I find myself kind of closer to the middle a lot of times. Being more pragmatic, I believe that people need a helping hand. I've got a big heart for charity. I spend a lot of my time doing charity, especially after my accident. I feel like it's a calling that God. I've had as of July last year 30 years of additional life, wow. And I believe God called me to do something extra with that life, and I've dedicated my time to children. I coached 80 athletic teams during my kids' youths. I've always been the person that goes to all the activities. I do my very best to support my kids in going to all their activities, if it's at all humanly possible. But I can see both sides of the issue, and it seems like it's really unfair sometimes that liberals can't seem to see anything that a conservative believes in. I mean, and conversely, conservatives have a very difficult time understanding how a liberal approaches things too, and I think that's tragic.
It's sad that both sides try not to work with each other. You'll have one side, like I'll watch a lot of the political stuff. You'll have the conservatives trying to work with the Democrats, the far lefts, and a lot of the stuff that they go off of, which people that I've talked to, I'm still trying to get a pretty hardcore leftist on here. Cool to have one. It's kind of hard to find one around here. Yeah. But they go off a lot of emotional stuff.
Yeah.
They use emotions. Well, this is how we can help the more sad people.
Yeah.
Like, I don't look at it that way. Like, how do I help a sad person? Well, when I was sad, what really helped is if I found a goal and I achieved that goal. Mm-hmm. How did I do it? I put my butt in gear and I went and did it.
Yeah.
That's the best way I could do it for myself.
Yeah.
I can't emotionally figure out everybody else. I'm not conservative Republican. I'm more middle to conservative. I'll say Republican every once in a while, but I want less government. A lot less government.
Yeah. Libertarian almost.
Yeah, almost more libertarian. Mm-hmm. But there's also other things that I have Christian values. And what I try to do is whoever has God most in their policies, whoever keeps God first, that's the guy I'm going to go with. Even if that guy, I will vote for a Democrat if he keeps God first.
Yeah.
If the Republican's not, I'll go Democrat because this guy's keeping God first and he's doing what the Bible says.
Yeah.
I don't care what side they're on. Most of the time, it's more towards the right. It just truly is. It's just more towards the right to keep God first and center. And it's sad that
I get nervous when people tell me how Christian they are. I want to see it in their life.
Yes.
I want to see it in their life. I want to see it in the fruit of what they've done in their life and what they're doing in their life. It's easy to, there's so many code words that us Christian types use. Man, I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed. Ooh, he's a Christian.
Hashtag blessed.
Hashtag blessed. And, I'd just rather see somebody, and I've got employees I care about, and I take good care of them, I think. I have customers I care about. I take good care of them. I've always lived my life. I was raised in the church as a young child, and then my parents got divorced. And the best way to make sure that nobody gets divorced in the future is to shun them. So the church decided to shun them. That was a big 70s thing. Yeah. You weren't alive then.
Not even.
Yeah. And so we became kind of Christmas and Easter Christians, and it really affected my parents, my dad's faith. And it's such a real shame that the church, that was how they decided to react to something that was going on in society. But I'm still a person of great faith, and I think that part of that is, even though my parents, I lived with my dad growing up, he didn't raise me with strict Christian values, but highly moral and ethical values. Always do the right thing, never lie. And I've had situations with my employees over the years where, they do something wrong and they decide to lie, and I sometimes feel bad about that I've done something wrong, because I had somebody one time, they're plowing snow. The general public, you guys are terrible, by the way. So inconsiderate of people out trying to plow and salt, and you've got your place to be, and by God, that guy can wait. Mm-hmm. And it's not kind at all. I send the same message to my employees every year. We plow for ourselves, we plow for other people. All my businesses, we do work for ourselves, and we do work for other people as well. The roofing company, we do obviously work for everybody, but my trash company and windows, doors, glass, all those kinds of things, we do work for us. Too? We pick up our own trash. Oh, wow. And that's part of one of the companies that makes sure our retail centers look nice. But we do that for ourselves. We do that for others too. But one of my guys, he was pulling his truck out of the gas station and hit a guy's truck and broke his rim. And they made an agreement amongst themselves that they weren't going to turn it into insurance. And this guy was going to pay for this rim himself. Dude, it was like 2 weeks' wages. Yeah, and it broke my heart that he wouldn't tell me the truth that he did. He didn't tell us he did it. We later found out.
Yeah.
And, I just hate people to lie. It really, really, really bothers me. And some people lie so continuously that they get to the point where they think it's the truth. Mm-hmm. But there's only the truth. There's not versions of the truth. There's just one truth. And so again, with my employees, I work hard to try to be as understanding. They're fearful for their jobs. I get that, things like that happen. Hey, we put on hundreds of thousands of miles. I've got 20 some vehicles. We put hundreds of thousands of miles on per year. And unfortunately, it's the law of averages. We have to accept that that's sometimes the cost of doing business, that we're going to hit somebody's truck with the front of our plow every once in a while in a gas station. That just happens. And so I try to make it an environment where my employees know that, they're allowed to make mistakes. That's not the reason somebody gets fired. Mm-hmm. You make mistakes. The reason you get fired is lying about things. Don't lie.
That's something that where I work at, huge thing.
Yeah. Oh, sure, man.
If you lie about something, man,
you make a mistake.
That's even worse when you lie about it.
You make a mistake. Hey, man, it's okay.
Yep.
You make a mistake and there's bad consequences. That's still okay. You did the best you could. You lie about it, dude. That's just not cool.
There's a quick example. I crashed a fire truck.
Yep.
A few years back.
Yep.
It was about 2.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Those things are pretty expensive.
I think they are.
$600,000.
Something in that range.
Minimal.
Yeah.
And I hit a garage door.
Yep.
And it ripped off the top light, knocked over one of our spotlights.
Yeah.
And I was like, what was that?
I haven't heard that sound before.
Like, what was that? I turned back to the guy behind me. I'm like, what'd you just do? And he's just like, nothing. I'm like, I think it was him. And And then, because we were heading to a house fire.
Yeah.
We come around the corner, I look up, black column of smoke. We're about to do some work.
Yeah,
so,
baby.
we're driving to it.
Come on, we're there.
I get there, and I want to talk about you being a volunteer fireman.
Yeah, I was volunteer.
We get there, and then another chauffeur, his name's Justin Laraway, came up. The guy's a fantastic driver, fantastic pumper. Man. He comes up, he goes, hey, your light tower's messed up, or your light bar's messed up? And I was like, what?
That must have been the sound.
And I'm like, oh my God. That was the sound.
Yeah.
The whole thing is bent back. The spotlights broke back.
Yeah.
And
that's
I'm
about
just
$30,000.
That was me.
Yeah.
And I could have lied about it.
You take it, man.
I could have lied about it. I could have said, somebody else hit the bay door and it was coming down. I said, I screwed up. I hit it twice. I didn't look. It's my fault.
Yeah.
And my boss told me, he's like, all right, I'm going to have to write you up just because you did do damage. He said, but I'm glad you were honest with me.
It's just in the record. Yeah. I mean, and somebody makes an honest mistake over and over and over and over. Now we've got another problem.
I got to text back to my wife. She just called.
Yeah.
But
say, hey, I'm on air, honey.
Yeah, that's one of the episodes we did. She came in. She goes, you want a smoothie? And
I'm good for now. Thanks, son.
We are recording.
Yeah. It's a little podcast thing we do here.
I just want to make sure that when she comes in, she'll usually scream for our dog, Delilah. She'll go, Delilah. And
then
she comes running. And then I'm just like, but it was because I was honest. I still got punished for it.
Sure.
But it was a lot less worse than if I would have lied and said somebody else at the door or someone else's fault. I wasn't paying. It's easier just to be honest, and if you even do get fired, at least you were honest about it.
Absolutely,
and then your integrity holds up.
Yeah,
but you were a volunteer fireman.
I was a volunteer.
Can you tell
fireman,
me the years you were a volunteer fireman? Where at, and what was it like?
You're not going to believe me. You have to go. Somebody's going to fact check this.
That's all right. I don't care.
I was a volunteer fireman. I want to say the years were 87 and 88 in this small little town that was up in northern Indiana, north of Indianapolis, I guess. Not really northern Indiana. It's called, begins with an F. Fishers.
Fishers. Oh.
You got to fact check that.
Are you serious?
I swear, yeah. Right by Archer's Meat Market, there's a big blue brick block building, rather, and that was a firehouse. And we only had volunteer firemen. We had, I think, a paid chief and maybe a paid couple staff members, but for the most part, we were all volunteer.
So at that point, you had your fire certificate. Did you have your fire certification?
They got it for me.
Yeah. There you go. And anything with EMS
I didn't.
certification?
Okay, I didn't. No, we responded
for the longest time.
Yeah, no, we that was probably the only thing. The biggest thing we responded to is EMS and accident calls. During my tenure, we didn't have a lot of house fires. Biggest fire that I fought was it was a huge fire. A fellow fireman. Will there be other firemen watching this?
Yeah,
there probably will be. Won't they? Okay, so rookie. We're out and we're at Fishers. They're building all those industrial parks. There were no buildings up there. Those were all just farm fields. So the roads were in all those places, but no buildings were built yet. And this landscaper guy had built his own machine in the back of his truck, and had jerry rigged some sort of motor on, and he took bales of hay and he put it through some grinder. Man, it was great stuff. I mean, he had done
something impressive.
It was very impressive.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's actually a machine that you could buy to do that. Instead, he made his own. And so it caught on fire. And so they're out spraying, putting grass seed and straw and spewing it out and driving the truck, up and down, spewing it out of the truck. And the thing catches on fire. So we've got a vehicle fire. We respond. Mm-hmm. Man, I'd run the hose a lot of times. I loved it, but some of the older guys were like, send Rookie up there. So they send me up there, and so I get in the back of the truck, and man, I peel it out, and boom! I mean, just crap's flying everywhere. And I didn't really know, you don't probably need it full blast when you're just in the back of a pickup truck. So it was a little bit of a learning experience. So I peel it back a little bit, and I'm spraying, and man, kind of taking note of everything. I'm like, wow, okay, so there's the motor. That's what's on fire. The motors are on fire. And what's it going over to? This guy had welded a gas tank so that when he went to the gas station, he could just fill it up over the truck bed. He had welded a gas tank into the truck.
Awesome.
Yeah, which is, by the way, about 18 inches from the burning motor. So I'm like, is that a gas tank? Oh my gosh, dude! People are screaming. I can still hear them screaming. Go! We decided to fight the fire from a little further away. Then, yeah, that was my big
cool.
Fisher's firefighting experience. I could probably take you up to which industrial park it was. It's a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh, that is
awesome.
I
wanted to give back. I was always that person that kind of wanted to give back, and that was before my accident. And I decided after my accident, I worked with Mothers Against Drunk Driving for 4 or 5 years, helped pass the first open container law. And
really?
I've never been somebody that's prone to depression, man. I wake up happy most days. And again, that's not a pat on the back. That's just the way God made me. Mm-hmm. I wake up, but man, after my accident, I felt like so much had been taken from me. I had been told over and over how much potential I had, and the world was just going to be my oyster, and I was going to do great work. And I walked with a cane for a year. When I graduated from college, I was in a wheelchair for the few months before I graduated, and I go out, I had a job offer, and they pulled it from me once they found out how bad a limp I had, and I ended up taking a job that I just absolutely freaking hated. I was an idiot, and I quit that job before I had another job. I was killing it. I was selling food for Nestle Corporation.
Oh, wow.
And by most people's standards, it was a great job. They loved me. I had one distributor. I went from, they were carrying 3 of our products up to 17 products. I was selling truckloads of potatoes to Purdue like we had never sold them before. I mean, I was killing it. I was doing great. I hated it. I hated it from the morning to the evening, all weekend long. Sunday night come, all I could think about is, oh God, tomorrow's Monday. I got to do this again. Man, nobody should do a job like that. If you hate your job, find something else.
Oh, yeah.
So my manager comes in. I open this big account, and my manager comes in, and he's like, hey, how do you like this? How's everything going for you? I mean, people are talking about you. Well, things are going well. I'm like, man, I hate it. I come out of college working 2 and 3 jobs. Mm-hmm. I'm here. I'm working. You're selling to restaurants, selling to hospitals, selling to things like that, and they want to see you from like 9:30 to 11, and then 1:30 to 4. That's it. That's all you're working. And I'm like, I'm used to just put a few more hours in than this. I'm sitting around my house all day going, what am I going to do with myself? And I'm a real picky eater, and I'll be carrying around this country sausage gravy all day, which I don't eat country sausage gravy. So it makes me want to throw up just even thinking about it. And, you're sitting there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I remember specifically I was in the VA hospital, and it was one of the few days before I talked to this guy about quitting. And I'm in the VA hospital, and I'm with the food buyer, and we're going through all this stuff. I've got thermoses of all this wonderful food. Nestle Corporation, great corporation. It is good country sausage gravy. Do I get any promo money for that? Or
I don't
think
get
they'll send you a thing? Okay, never mind that.
If I got promo stuff like this thing right here is something from Black Smoke Sticker Company, they sent me this.
There you are.
That would be really cool.
That would be really cool. You don't think Nestle?
If they want to send me a bunch of
Ice
cases,
Mountain, the best water. Coming from the mountains.
If I get free stuff from it, I mean, I'll do it.
I won't say how good the country sausage gravy is. It's just part of the story. So we're eating it. We're eating it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's been in my thermos all day, and I made it, and I warmed it up, and we've got a little biscuit, and I'm putting it on. I just feel like throwing up. I mean, I just can't stand the stuff anyway. And I'm saying, ooh, you see how smooth and creamy it is? And I'm like, it really is, though. Yeah. I just don't like it. So I'm in a job because of my accident that I wasn't happy with. It wouldn't have been what I would have done had I walked out of my college graduation, upright the way I was before my accident. And so I really felt like God had dealt me a bad hand, and I was really an angry person. And so I was working with Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I was doing public speaking against drunk driving all over the state, central Indiana especially, and colleges, high schools, middle schools. Anybody would hear me speak, I went and spoke about it.
That's awesome.
And that was kind of my way of giving back at the time. But man, it was just it was not a good time in my life. And finally, I went to church. We moved over to Center Grove, and we went to Mount Pleasant Christian Church.
Mm-hmm.
And
I used to go there.
It's a great church. Yeah. It is really a great church. We still are members there today. And moved into Innisbrook over off of Fairview. It's a neighborhood right there. And I'm like, my kids are getting older. They're like 5 and 3. And I'm like, I got to take my kids to church. And so I'm thinking, which church are we going to go to? Let's get the crazy ones out of the way first. And at the time, they had this big Noah's Ark thing out in the back. I'm like, okay, we're going there first because we can mark this off after 1 week. And we went in there, and I just felt so much love and support there. And it was my first.
At Mount Pleasant?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've always thought of that place as a chocolate cupcake with a candle on top.
Is that right?
That's always what I thought. I mean, that's just what the building looks like.
Yeah, we put a roof on that a couple years ago. We put a new chocolate really cool roof on it.
It looks like a chocolate cupcake with a candle on the top.
Yeah, there you go.
I've always
that's a good way to think of it. Yeah, it's also really nice and warm and satisfying inside too.
Nice, so
it's a good environment. You know, they care a lot about their staff. They go deep into the water in terms of teaching the word. And I in the program first couple weeks there, I'm like, this basketball program. So I go talk to Rich Green. Turns out to be one of the best friends I've ever had in my life. Really? So Rich was in charge of the athletics, and I'm like, hey man, I'd like to get my kid signed up for basketball. He's like, cutoff was last week. I'm like, freaking great, crazy church. And he says, I tell you what I'll do for you. I'm like, okay, what's that? He says, if you can coach a team, I can get your son in. I'm like, I got a career. I'm trying to get started. I'm busy. I just don't know if I'll try it. And I'd help my dad coach and stuff. My dad was always my coach. And I got into it, man, and I just felt God talking to me like, this is what you're supposed to do. And so I ended up, that was the first team, a kindergarten team that I coached for my son in basketball. And I ended up coaching travel soccer, regular soccer. I started the soccer program at Mount Pleasant. I coached football, travel football. I coached volleyball. I was in charge of the basketball program and other programs over at Mount Pleasant on and off for years, and really felt like that's a way that I could talk to people about faith, and we could get kids into a church in a non-scary environment. And shortly after I was going to church, Pastor Reggie Epps talked about forgiveness, and I was just like, Charles Willoughby was the name of the gentleman that hit me, and it was this. He was a second offending 19-year-old. Later, I think he was an alcoholic more than likely, and I was just mad at him. I mean, dude, I was mad. Never paid me the money back that the court ordered him. Never went to any of his alcohol rehab classes. Ended up in jail eventually because he broke all of his probation and all these kinds of things. And I'm just like, man, the system's just broken, and this guy's broken, and nobody cares, and I'm just pissed off. And Pastor talked about forgiveness, and it's something I think I do a good job of today. At the time, I didn't do a good job of it all, but forgiveness, and it doesn't mean forgiveness has no consequences. And I'm like, well, hold on a second, maybe I might be able to get used to this forgiveness thing. And he talked about how, people do bad things. That's for God to judge. You sitting there every day with your voodoo doll, sticking somebody every day doesn't get you anything in life. They don't even know you're doing it. So forgive and move on. And so, that was something that really resonated with me, and I think changed my life. From that moment on, I was back to the person that I was before, waking up happy every day. It was literally like overnight. I sat in the pew and I said, Charles Willoughby, I forgive you. And
wow.
And I have some empathy for the man. He had problems, and I've tried to look him up a time or two to see. He spent much of his life in jail, I think, mm-hmm. But I've tried to look him up to say, man, my life turned out great. But his not so much. He had problems, I think, with alcohol.
I get to see people that have addictions. We talked
sure,
about this
I
a
bet
little
you
bit
do.
before.
Yeah,
we get to see that stuff where I work.
Yeah.
We get to see people with these heavy burdens.
Yeah,
and something that, like, I know I've mentioned it quite a few times to people on calls and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know I don't care if I get in trouble for trying to proclaim that Christ is my Savior and that He is the King. If I get in trouble for that, that would be great because I think God would love that.
I can live
really
with
honor
that.
Him.
I can live with that. Yeah, man.
There's been people out there. I'm like, I know this sounds cheesy, but dude, seriously, God has all the answers.
Yeah,
it's crazy. In this one book, it's the basic instructions before leaving Earth. Like it's literally got all the answers to everything in your life. Like if you follow it, like it's really hard to follow. It can be pretty hard to follow. Trust me. I was a big sinner, but for us to carry all these heavy burdens, like there's a huge weight that's been lifted off my shoulders by just trusting in God. Yeah, and being married. Like I'm just outside of my first year of marriage.
Yeah, and good for you.
Thank you very much.
That's congratulations.
Thank you. I love Savannah with all my heart. She's awesome. But a lot of the stuff that I would get stressed out, and then I'd have to sit there and be like, God wouldn't put me in a situation that He knows that I cannot more than you can handle. Yeah, He will give me what but I can handle, or more what I think I can handle. Yeah, He's got all this. So with our burdens, like it sounds so cheesy. I know every pastor says it, like let Him take your burdens, let Him carry your weight. I have a shirt that says God's gym, let Him carry your weight. Like
good because I hate lifting weights. Man, this is terrible.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's
lifting
hard.
weights is tough.
Yeah,
I did an episode with a guy who does bodybuilding promotions, and his name's Dave Bowers, and the dude's just a massive guy. The video I screwed up. He looked tiny in it, but the dude's like 6 foot. No, I fixed it. Don't worry.
Okay, I mean. Yeah, this isn't going to show my stomach, right? You said it was just this up, right?
Yeah, totally.
Go on it, man.
Yeah, totally. But like,
is there a video? I mean, do I get to see what this
looks
like?
We can figure it out. I can figure it out. The software I got, thank God for my father-in-law.
I'm just messing with you, man. I am what I am.
Me too. Yeah. I'm a loser sometimes. No, he gave me this awesome video editing software. It's like you can make movies off of it. So I'm still practicing. But anyways.
Good for you.
But with letting God carry your burdens, it's so much easier to just get rid of the stress. Yeah. And like I hardly have any stress anymore. And there are some things like my house is completely out of order right now. My house is completely out of order. Yeah. And God says to have your own.
As much as I complimented, I would agree it's out of order right now. It is out of order. But you can see, I can see. I mean, you got a plan for it.
Yes, there is a plan. Thank you. There is a plan for it, and I'm talking with my wife every day, and I'm like, we're both stressed out because we come home into a house that's not finished. Yeah, and it's like we need to be just trusting God. At some point we are going to want to have kids, and it's stressful because you try and you fail, and it's like I really want kids right now, but God's not letting it happen, and it's something that you just got to keep looking to God for the answer, because when I go through a hard time, I can either do what I want to do, or I can do what God would want me to do. What I want to do is not the godly thing. Yeah. What God wants me to do is going to honor Him, and it's going to be the right thing. Yeah. Which is why you look at a lot of the laws, like the Constitution. You look at our country, what it was founded on. The founders of our Constitution, the writer of it, he consulted, I think it was 4 or 5 priests for the laws to write them down. A lot of the stuff came from the Bible. Yeah. And for it to be working for over 200 years, I'd say that's pretty impressive. That's something to be admired at. There's just so much in the Bible that, and I
think if we could get term limits, we could go for another 200 years. But
amen. Yeah, I agree with that. It's just there's so much with. I love.
It was never supposed to be a profession.
It's not a career. It's
not supposed to be. Correct. You're supposed to reach back, and people that have a servant's heart are supposed to give. It's supposed to be a burden. I mean, they're supposed to reach down and say, "Hey, Brady, you've got a business, you've got a farm, you've got whatever you've got. Hey, we need you out in Washington for 2 years, 4 years, 6 years. You're supposed to miss some birthday parties. You're supposed to miss some things going on in your family. Yes. It's supposed to be a burden to you to go out and serve your country, and you do it out of love of your country, and you do it out of love of your family that you're servicing, your country and giving of your skills, and man, it's just turned into, what can I get? How do I get better?
So what do you think of George Washington then being the very first president of the United States and turning it down after his terms?
He is incomparable in comparison to today's politicians. There's just no comparison. I mean, he had all the power, and one of the things that everybody misses is he gave it up. There are very, 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 very few people, in public service today that have that type of servant's mentality, that believe that the next generation of leaders are supposed to take over every few years for the people that are there. It's supposed to be different ideas, different thoughts. And you know, a lot of the problems that we have today in politics arise from good thing with the water here. Yeah. Congress just completely abdicating their responsibilities to make laws. I mean, and I think you can work all that backwards. Why do they do that? Well, I know and have known congressmen. I have and have met and known senators. They're constantly raising money for the next election. And they're constantly worried about what the attack ad's going to be against them. And they're merciless. I mean, you can't watch television the month of October prior to any election. It's just over and over and over, most of which isn't true. When I think of George Bush saying a great American, somebody's a great American, you know, I think of Mike Sodrell. He was a client of mine, and Mike went out to Congress, and Mike was there for 2 years. Mike wanted to be there for longer, but when he went out there and they said, you know, gee, by the way, here's the phone. You're going to be operating it for 8 hours a day, generating more money for your reelection campaign, and we'll tell you what to vote for when we need you to get in there to vote.
That's
and
wrong.
Mike's like, you know, I thought I was elected to vote for, you know, what people back in Indiana wanted me to. Oh no, that's not why you're elected. You're elected and you're going to raise money, and then he was there for 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to people that are interested in serving the people that they get elected by. They're just not there very long. The system eats them up. And the politicians need these. I mean, I see your guns here. I'm a big gun advocate. We need constant conflict on what the laws are around guns, because the people on, I'm going to say, our side want to scare us that they're coming to take our guns away from us. So, oh God, we got to write a check. We got to get politicians, and they're not going to let that happen. And on the other side, you know, we need to go and more control. All these scary looking guns, we need to take them away. Well, the crimes are committed by people that aren't getting them legally anyway. Let's just enforce the laws that we have. I mean, there's two sides to that story. Neither side wants it fixed. They don't want it fixed because they need to raise money. And the whole thing has become about raising money. I honestly think that, you know, I'm not going to say whether we should give $1.9 trillion or what, but if as a country we just funded our own campaigns with the government's money and limited them and said, all right, we'll have a polling, and the top 5 people that poll, they can run for office, and we'll put $300,000 in each of their campaigns, and you can't spend another dime. I mean, nothing. You can't have your daughter put crayons, vote for dad. Nothing. You can't spend any more money, and we'll pay for it all. I think politics would be significantly different.
I think that's a really good idea that you bring up. I think also if you decrease the amount of money they make. Recently, I haven't done as much research on it, but this is stuff that I've been told from people that I trust. That was the insurance that a politician will get, even after retirement.
Yeah.
For life.
6 years, their tenure. They're I think it's 6 years they get.
Yeah, they'll have insurance for the rest of their life, and their kids will as well. It's why? Why are we doing that? Why not treat them as a normal human being?
Why don't the politicians have to follow the same laws that we have to follow?
Correct.
Why? I mean, those are some good questions.
There's a lot of stuff that I was not in the political world for the longest time.
Yeah.
And once I started getting interested in it, I listened to Louder with Crowder all the time. I was before you came over, I had him playing for 3 hours straight.
Yeah.
And I listened to Ben Shapiro. I listened to Tim Pool, and he's more moderate to Democrat. And I listen to those guys. I hate watching major media. I hate listening to Fox News. I hate listening to CNN. I hate listening to them. You need to, because you need to see what they're trying to push.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that
it's a shame.
It's sad.
It's a shame. CNN was just I idolized CNN. The Gulf War. 80s, 90s. I mean, it was fabulous. You want to know what's going on, dude? You turn on CNN, and it was news, and it was actually just this is what's going on. And then when news became what everybody wanted to consume, all of a sudden now you've got everybody writing checks from Procter and Gamble, and the news will give you exactly what you want to hear, because All they want is for you to tune in so they can sell ads to Procter and Gamble. It's all money.
Oh yeah.
And so, you end up, everybody finds a news outlet that they're comfortable with that gives them what they believe. I'm not comfortable with CNN. Most of what they say is completely against my belief system. I watch them a lot anyway, just because I'm a glutton for punishment. But for the most part, people that just want to consume some news, they go to whatever channel they're most comfortable with. And then, unfortunately, everything they hear reinforces everything they already believed.
Yeah.
And that's just not a way for any of us to learn and grow and come together. I mean, what a farce. I mean, there's no coming together. Nobody has an interest in coming together. I mean, you got a week after an election of President Biden, and I'm not going to call him Biden because they called him Trump for years. He was President Trump for 4 years. He's not our president anymore. President Biden's our president now. And I'll call him President Biden until we're able to get him out of office.
You don't have
and
to
that's the way the
respect
system
man.
works.
You can respect.
You
the rank,
absolutely respect the office.
Yeah,
he's our president.
Yeah,
he's my president.
Yeah,
and I'm not happy with his. I'm not happy with what he wants to do. But you got less than a week after he's in office talking about unity, saying I don't need to work with these Republicans on this $1.9 trillion. We'll just do it without him. Oh, really? I mean, we can't give it another second meeting, a third meeting. Let's hear what they have to say. No, we're just going moving forward. I mean, this is the same guy that pushed Obama through with no Republican votes. I mean, which we've now been fighting for 10 years.
There's a lot with to be back on the finances.
Yeah.
Back on the amount of money that they can make, the amount of money of the benefits of being a congressman. I understand it's nice. Term limits would be even better because you got people that would be like, hey, I've only got 8 years, 12 years here. I could do the best I can, and then I got to get out. It's not even forced out, but that's the end of my term.
Yeah,
we have a term limit for the presidency. There's a reason for that.
There is a reason.
There's a reason for that. You look at a picture of a president when they're in the first day, and you look at the very last day that they serve. They look like they've aged horribly.
Yeah.
Now,
so it's a big burden, I'm sure.
It's a heavy burden.
I know what it's like to try to run a small business. It's a burden to be responsible for other people, and I'm sure the stress is immense.
And I think now, of course, with politics, people have their own opinions on everything, which is completely fine.
And I disagree with yours.
Oh, man.
No, I'm just kidding.
You shouldn't talk because I disagree with what you say. I think a lot of it comes back to a lack of God in their life.
Yeah.
I understand not everybody's into Christ like how you might be and how I might be, but there's no shutting people down. There is no disregarding their thought. There is no disrespectfulness. It's listening to what someone has to say, and then what's the right thing to do? What's the smart thing to do?
We're not a theocracy, so I mean, I do believe in the separation of church and state, and I'm an advocate of that. We're not a theocracy. I think sometimes. I'm trying to think of how not for anybody to know who I'm thinking about, but I've got a person who I know who is a very strong Christian, and he's of a religious sect that is a fairly mainstream sect. I mean, he's not out Jehovah Witnessing. Not that they're not mainstream. They're not really mainstream, are they? They're not really, are they? We can say that. Whatever it is.
Bicycles.
But anyway, he's of a mainstream sect, but he is really out there. And I don't want the church running my government.
No.
The Bible actually talks about that.
Correct.
And so some people are like, well, the church needs the government needs to run exactly like the church says and exactly per God's laws.
Not
I'm
the church.
Man,
there's
not the church. The church is man.
Church. Correct.
And so you get into all these denominations, and my ex-wife's family doesn't believe in instrumental music in their church, and I don't believe they ever thought I was going to heaven because I go to a church that believes in instrumental music. So I'm not really a Christian. I mean, only the people that believe in non-instrumental music are going to. I just think bringing religion into politics, you better be careful because
it's tough. And what I mean,
we can't even all agree on how to baptize somebody.
No, and that's the tough.
Our pastor says focus on the majors, not the minors. I'm with him on that. is Christ the Son of God? Is some of the main aspects of it. He is our Savior. He died on the cross for our sins. But when we take communion, when we don't take communion, how we get somebody baptized. Man, I can agree to disagree with you, and we can still be brothers on the love of Jesus.
Yes, and that's another thing that I'm very opinionated on the church. Not a fan of the church, to be honest. And I'm a Christian. I'm a Christ follower.
Yep.
I'm not a fan of churches. I really am not. I'm not a big fan. I don't like them. So there's great churches out there. I've been to some great churches.
And if you talk about the cupcake thing in a negative way, we're going to have to battle now. Hold on. Let's back this tape up.
It's the roof stay half. I can't stand no.
I put that roof on, man.
I've been to fantastic churches.
Yeah.
And I've been to some not so fantastic churches. What I like to see is, like, I just talked to some guys at work about this last night. A lot of decisions I make are, what would Jesus do? It was, is this going to honor God, or is this not going to honor God? For me, that's how a lot of it comes down to. If I am a congressman, or am I in the Senate, and there comes a policy that it's like, would this honor God? Like, would this really honor his children? And if it doesn't, I'm sorry, I can't put my name on that, because it's not going to honor my God. It's not going to honor God. And that comes down to me. That's what comes down to knowing what the Bible talks about, and trying to put out something good for everybody. Granted, I'm not saying the church needs to run government. That would be a horrible idea.
It would be a horrible idea.
Horrible idea. Yeah. I've been to some churches that spend a lot of money on stupid things, and I'm like, why do you need that?
They can't agree on which
pointing it over.
Which kind of copier to buy. I mean, there's fights in the church.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So don't let the church do it. But in my personal opinion, things go easier if you keep God as a
Judeo-Christian values. You talked
Correct.
about the founding of our country, and we have a very unique country and a very unique system of representative democracy, a representative government that has survived longer than almost any other, I believe, democracy before. But it has survived and thrived, and we've been the envy of the world in so many ways because of the diversity of thoughts that we have, and the Judeo-Christian values that it was all established on.
Let's just talk about if you go with the history of when the Bible was written. Now, the Bible wasn't written all at once. It's a bunch of letters that were put together by a bunch of different people. It was a span over 1,300 years that there was the predictions, and then when it happened, and then cross-reference them. But back then, when Jesus was around, women were not put up on a pedestal. Women were below the pedestal of men. Men were a lot higher. So when he's coming around and he goes to talk to a woman directly, children were even worse. Women were considered next to.
Man, you're trying to get me in trouble bringing me into this conversation, aren't you?
Yeah. No. I'm not talking about this is not what Jesus says. This is not. Yeah. This is back in that time. That's how they were treated. They were treated a lot lower. And when Jesus came around, he's going to talk to women. He hugs them. He says, "You have a father." That's something that you can't say that in the Bible that it treats women negatively. There are stories in there that are explanations of things that had happened. But to talk about like how to treat somebody, you read the Bible, you're going to find out how to treat somebody. The lowest of the low, he went and he hugged lepers.
Yeah.
He healed them. He went to the people that were casted out. He went to those. Like the expression was used in the Bible is, a healthy person does not go to the doctor. A sick person goes to the doctor.
Yeah.
Somebody who needs healed, somebody who is a sinner goes to God. And back to the example of how he treated women, that was a huge no-no back in the day to even acknowledge and talk to a woman when he was at the well to go talk to her.
You couldn't associate with sinners, and tax collectors were sinners. So
correct. And that's a problem of the church. That was the church's thing. And when Jesus came in, it completely changed it all.
Yeah.
So that's something that I find really exciting.
Yeah, the Sadducees and the religious leaders of the day established their version of God rather than God's version of God, and that's what your problem is with organized religion. Is organized religion too oftentimes lends itself to a few people dictating what happens based on their beliefs, not what God's beliefs are.
Yes. And it's difficult to see that happen because I love what the Bible's got in it. I mean, I can't argue with that. I can't create anything any better.
Yeah.
But to see, a major organization, I'll call it an organization, abusing a lot of that stuff. And I get it. I mean, when I went to a church that I was a part of there, and I was part of the serving ministries there, I understand. You got to catch people's eye. I understand that. But like motivational speeches, it's not what the Bible's all about. It's not a motivational speech. You've got to talk about what's in the Bible.
Yeah.
I get it. For entry level people, you got to catch their attention to bring them closer to it. That works for other people. That works for other people, but not for me. So,
well, at some point, our church, our pastor, I didn't like our pastor when he first was hired.
Was it Chris?
Chris Philbeck. Yeah. Chris is a good friend of mine today. And if Chris is watching this, I absolutely love Chris today.
Hey, sorry about churches things.
Sorry, Chris.
I met you once.
and I love you.
He does fantastic.
He does fantastic.
Even if he does
work.
watch, you do a great job. I'm just very picky on business.
One of the things that Chris said, our previous pastor was very charismatic, Reggie Epps, and I love Reggie. And I think Reggie kind of had the idea men sometimes tend to go to church and do this every once in a while. So there was just funny stuff periodically. Mm-hmm. And man, I always felt like every week I'd go, I can't wait. It's gonna be something funny. It's gonna be great. And I'm sitting out there going, yeah. We're all hooting and hollering. It was great. And then Chris Philbeck comes and he talks about it was subtle. It was a subtle joke that he told that wasn't really a joke. So he talked about being in seminary with two guys. He's like, oh, old Joe. Joe was a preacher's preacher. He'd get up there and he'd talk about anything forever. And he says nobody wanted to follow him after their sermon. We'd go do practice sermons. Nobody wanted to follow Joe. And he'd get up there and we'd be rolling in the aisles. It was the greatest thing. I mean, he was a public speaker, man. It was phenomenal. And so one week he goes and the next the professor calls my friend Tim. And so Tim has to follow Joe. And so Tim gets up there and he talks about Titus. And he went through all the book, all the chapters of Titus and what was going on at the time. And he talked about, the effects it was of this chapter. And he goes through all the details. He says, I don't remember what Joe talked about. And it was just kind of left there hanging. I mean, the basic premise was Tim didn't have a lot of jokes in his sermon. He just went through the book.
Yes.
And he talked about what was going on, what the effect was, what was happening at the time. What was Paul's journey? Where was he at? Had he already been here? He hadn't been there. This had happened. That hadn't happened. So he gives all the specifics. Where some people just talk about something that's really fun and happy and it's great and you love listening to him. You just don't learn any more about God. And for years I taught FCA over at the middle school. And it was a real joy of my life, and I enjoyed doing it a lot. Sometimes my speakers wouldn't show up, or I couldn't get a speaker. They'd call me the day before, and so I'd end up having to be the speaker. And I unfortunately found out how easy it is. I mean, just sitting here with you. I mean, when we talk about honesty in the Bible, integrity in the Bible, hard work in the Bible, you can type a few words in, and you can say, oh, like we talked about in 1 Timothy 4:16, and then I can give a whole great big motivational speech around it.
Yeah,
that doesn't have anything to do with the Bible.
Correct,
but it's great to listen to.
Oh yeah, fun story.
And so I kind of caught myself a couple times doing that. I wanted to get a message out on being kind to others, and and inviting somebody over to your table that wasn't part of FCA, that may not have anybody else sitting with them, and so I kind of caught myself doing that a couple times. Okay. Kindness to less fortunate and the Bible. And man, you can just pull it up and it'll give you 6 different Bible verses. And I sometimes wonder whether that's not how some of the sermons in our country get made by pastors, is that they really want to talk about something that's just super exciting that brings in lots of people to talk about. But you gotta, you're in church, you gotta sprinkle some of these Bible verses in.
Yeah, I mean, there's
and so they just get dropped.
Yes.
They just and you said you listen to this whole speech, it's almost uncomfortable. Oh, and like God talks about in blah blah blah, and then they're right back on it.
Yes.
Some TV preachers are really bad about that.
Yes, I can't stand them. There's some like Franklin Graham. Mm-hmm. Franklin Graham's the grandfather. He did a fantastic job.
Yeah,
he did a wonderful job, and I got to meet his like great grandson or grandson Edward.
Billy would be his.
Billy Graham. Yeah, Billy Graham. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I don't watch TV no more.
That's all right, man.
And I that's where I would see everything.
So Franklin, I think, would be
Franklin
the
is
great
the
grandson
son,
or the grandson,
and then
whatever it is. I don't remember
and then
how
Billy
it works.
Graham. Oh my God, that's embarrassing. My mom's gonna hit me in the face.
Yeah, it's all right, man. We can edit that out, I think. I mean, you told me early on if we said anything. You leave it? We're leaving it, man.
Mistake.
We're leaving it. It's in there.
I'm an idiot.
There you are. I need a little Google search in there.
I've fact checked myself a couple times. So
yeah. Hey, I'm wrong every day, man.
I'm wrong.
I think if you don't understand that you can make mistakes, then you've got a really bad perspective on things. And again, it puts you in a place where you think you're always right.
It's the best way to learn too. And I'm wrong quite often where I work.
Yeah.
And that's how I learn. Because
every day I learn something new, man. I've got so many different companies, and people ask me, how did that happen, and how do you manage them all? And I manage them all through great people, but I also manage by just making mistakes and learning and trying to get better every day.
That's pretty cool to hear, because I've always been afraid of. Well, real quick, my other point was talking to a group of people. Mm-hmm. I've only talked to a larger group of 18 people once.
Yeah,
and to keep everyone's attention,
hundreds, maybe thousands, right now.
Maybe 100.
Maybe 100.
No,
not that many people like us.
I would love to have a large viewing. That way, I could increase the amount of people I get to talk to. Because I love talking to people. Mm-hmm. This is a really. To me, this is more of a thing for I want to meet interesting people, and I'm recording it because I have a bad memory and I want to listen to it again. That's why. That's another. I've done this for there's 5 big reasons why I do this, and a big reason why is because I forget a lot of things, so I want to record it. Why not post it out there for other people to hear? Mm-hmm. But talking to a large group of people, what's going to keep their attention? What's going to keep the viewers' attention? If I'm funny, if I'm cracking jokes.
Yeah, that's what I said. We ought to write some of the stuff down. I get this dad jokes thing on Facebook. There's some good stuff in there, man. It really is. I mean, plug the dad jokes. I don't get revenue from that either, though, right?
I don't care.
Nothing. We get nothing.
No, I get nothing from this.
Yeah.
Stuff.
So
I've
dad jokes on Facebook, and you look at it. They're good stuff.
I'll have to put a link in for that one. Yeah. But going back with, if I'm a pastor, if I ever have to give a message, how am I going to captivate my audience? Mm-hmm. What am I going to do? For me, I like going off of stories in the Bible. I like hearing that stuff, this is what my tattoo is. It is a story from the Bible.
Yeah.
And it gets people to say, first of all, people that are like, oh my goodness, you cannot mark your skin. It says so in the Bible. Well, it's something a little bit different. If you go back and read why, and then look up what group he's talking about, who God was talking to. We get to that story another day. But it gets me to talk about God to somebody. I got to talk to an atheist in the Kroger because they asked about, what is that, man? It looks really good. Now my arm's not shaved. I shave it so that way it looks a lot better. But I'm like, oh, this is a story of the Bible. And I could tell he's like, I'm atheist.
Oh, man.
And I'm just like, well, let me tell you about it. He was like, yeah, tell me. And I told him the story. And of course, I work out, and I'm a little bit bigger than most people. Mm-hmm. And he didn't work out. And he's like, that's really cool. You could tell that you really love that story. I'm like, it's great. Look at me. I want to be Samson. I want to be him.
Your hair's not
ain't
make
be
it,
there.
I don't think.
No, I have no hair.
Yeah,
so,
there you are.
With the whole...
That impressed you? I knew who that was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty impressive.
Yeah,
my nickname for a lot of church Christians are typical topical Christians. and I found that out because I would go into church with tattoos, and people would look me up and down. And and I would... young guy coming in, high testosterone. I see all these guys wearing button-ups with polos, looking like a weak guy. What? Yeah. I got into a Bible study, a men's group, and it was guys that were the outcasts, the guys that were the tatted up guys, the guys that came in wearing normal person clothes. Yeah. I don't have fancy clothes. Yeah. I do have a suit or two. I have 2 suits.
I'd give you one of my shirts, but I don't think it'd fit.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. It's the thought that counts. Yeah. And to see that, men and I almost said firehouse, men in the church. Yeah. That was something I enjoyed seeing. Yeah. Because I was always seeing No offense to anybody that drives a minivan or wears the button up with the collar and everything. Not that. I like that. I'm talking about the vest ones, the ones that you're like, dude, if I push you, you will fall over. And the guys that have probably more estrogen in their body than testosterone. It's something that, like, we are God's warriors. Yeah. I believe that everyone's a warrior. I believe that we all put on that suit of armor for Christ every single day. But I mean, for that, I want to not just look the part. I want to be the part. Yeah. So how am I gonna be able to be a good Christ follower? And if I'm letting people walk over me, if I'm letting these,
the tattoo thing is also sort of a generational thing. I mean,
yes, it is.
You know, I'm not a huge fan myself.
Yeah, that's all right.
I admit it. I mean, we don't need to go battle over because you'll kick my backside.
No, I don't like.
I'm not a big fan of it from a business standpoint.
Yes.
And it you know, grandma's afraid of them.
Yes, they are.
You know,
my grandmother was.
And people my age are like, well, you know, really the only people that get those are the really, you know,
criminals.
Yeah.
My grandpa
How's
told
your
me
jail
the same
tat
thing.
doing?
Yeah,
and
it's great.
And you know, I've changed my mind on it a lot. At the same time, you know, I've had employees that have sleeves, and I just ask them respectfully, while you're out working for me, cover them up.
I understand.
And I'm not asking you to, you know, go take a razor and try and scrape them off. You do you. But while you're working for me, representing my company out on the street, I'd rather that they weren't the focal point of what the customer looks at, because why have that additional layer of questioning from the customer? We need to remove all that. We're focused on, we're professionals. We're here to do a professional job. That's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah, I understand. And you as a private business owner, that's your right to do it, which is great because our Constitution backs that.
It does.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
My grandparents, before they passed, my grandma was like, don't do that to your skin. Don't do that to your skin. I'm like, oh, Grandma, come on. Let me explain why. Yeah. And then I'd explain why. And of course, it is very much a generational thing.
It is.
I love tattoos.
Yeah.
I love them. If it weren't to society's standards, I would have my head tattooed already. I want to. It's a great conversational piece for me to talk to people about God.
That's one way you express yourself.
And it's one way that I express myself. If I didn't work where I work at now, I would probably, especially if I was my own business owner, I would have probably my head tattoo and grow my hair out and wear a hat and be able to cover it up. And that's just, to me, it's something that somebody would be like, why would you do that? Like, well, let me tell you about God and what he's done in my life. And this is just a way for me to have you ask me a question.
Yeah.
And that guy that was the atheist in Kroger that asked me, like, hey, man, what's that? He had tattoos all over himself. Yeah. And he had nothing about God on him, but I got to talk to him about God. Yeah. And that's the one major thing that stuck out to me. I've had old women, as we're going to go pick them up, they're like, oh, what'd you do to your skin? like, well, it's a tattoo, man, but it's a story in the Bible from Samson and Delilah, and that's why my dog's name is Delilah. Yeah, and Delilah, she was a prostitute in the book. My dog was not a prostitute.
Didn't save her from the house.
Yeah, so I get to talk to this old woman about Christ. I do understand. Yeah, back generationally for them, people that had tattoos generally were criminals. Yeah. Totally understand. I'm okay with it, and I kind of agree with it. If you were in the military, if you were a sailor,
my grandfathers
you'd
both
have
had
certain tattoos for whatever you did, and they'd be on your forearms.
Yep. My grandfathers were both in World War II, and they both had.
That's awesome. Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah. And I didn't know this, but if you were, I believe it was in the Navy, they'd have certain tattoos in certain locations of your body, and that meant like you did certain things in the Navy. Yeah. Like you've sailed a certain amount of nautical miles, and you'd get a certain tattoo for it, which I had no idea. I thought that was so interesting after I heard that. But I do agree. You know, hand tattoos.
Yeah. See, man, I'm just thinking, you said early on, one of the things you heard about is I'm not PC. I should have just let you talk about it and not said, hey, man, I don't really like tattoos. I'm just so stupid. I go ahead and say the truth anyway.
No, that's perfectly fine. No, I'm all for if whatever your
I guess if that makes me not PC, doesn't it?
No.
Yeah.
I think, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
No, being politically
being PC
correct
is being quiet about it and saying, "Oh yeah, sure, we're just whatever."
Yeah, and if that's your opinion on,
I don't want to have controversy. Oh my gosh,
controversy's good. There's things that I've had to recognize myself with putting videos of myself talking out there and of other people, and starting a little controversy about something. For one, it might change my mind after someone says,
Sure,
I disagree with that.
Man, that's what I'm telling you. My days of being in college, and I had friends that sent their kids to Christian churches, and they're like, or Christian schools, and they're like, we don't want our kids around all these, these bad ideas. They're saying evolution is real. Well, I guess that's how you define evolution. I don't know. What's wrong with your kids here? If you absolutely are a New Earth Christian and you believe that Earth is 6,000 years old, that's perfectly fine for you to believe. If you want to teach your children that, that's within your right. Don't think that they might believe that their whole life. They have the opportunity to go out and see what's in the world, and sheltering them away from everybody else's kids, I just don't think is good. And I always wanted my kids to be lights. If I send them to public schools, and if I wanted them to be a light, I wanted them to invite kids to church activities and be involved in things. And I'm proud of where my children are, and one of the most proud things is we haven't been going to in-person church since the Rona, and we want to get back to doing it. And my 17-year-old said the other day that she misses going to church. I'm like, I can't think of anything
that's really
that
nice
she could
hear.
have said
Yeah.
that would have been more music to my ears than that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's cool, because there's a time that I was like,
I miss it, man.
I miss going to
I
church.
like going every week.
There was a time that I used to say that.
I like going every week.
Yeah.
I like the message. And when I was talking about Chris Philbeck, he's such a phenomenal man. And he's talked about his own vulnerabilities of his own life and things like that. And yet, we focused on the book of Matthew for like a year and a half.
That's awesome.
So like, hey, what are we studying this week? Matthew. And that might be a turnoff for a lot of people. For me, I'm like, I can't wait to. What's going on next, man? What's the next week? Tell me more. Yeah, and to have my kids go and enjoy that too. It's just learning. It's just figuring out what it's about.
That is something that it's pretty interesting that you mentioned that. It's
you think Chris is going to watch this?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know how people don't.
If we make it long enough, maybe he won't have time.
If you send it to him.
Oh gosh, I might send it to him.
Yeah, send it to him. See what he says.
Yeah.
And
Rich Green, I say Rich. Rich is a character too. Rich is out in Texas now. I'd love to have Rich in here with you. He's
I'd love to talk to him.
Oh my gosh, he was in charge of the outreach ministries for years and the sports ministries, and followed one of our other pastors down to Texas. But he married my wife and I.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm in a second marriage, so we are a blended family. That's embarrassing for a lot of Christians. I'm thrilled to death. I married the best woman in the world as far as I'm concerned. Oh,
tell me about
she's
it.
just fabulous.
When did you meet her? What year was it when you met her?
Oh my gosh, what year was it? Hold on, let me do this math. 1970.
Oh my goodness.
7 or 8.
Cell phones weren't around back then.
No, cell phones weren't around. We didn't text each other in class. We flipped football notes to each other. It was great. But no, she and I never dated. I would have to say that almost every person she dated didn't like me, and I would probably say that every person that I dated didn't particularly care for her. And I found it difficult because she's just somebody who I've always just had a lot of trust in. We just clicked from early on as friends, and I think if friendship isn't the basis of your marriage, then you need to figure out how to make friendship the basis of your marriage. Figure out what you have in common and work towards the goal of getting to know each other and trust each other more in a marriage. I did marriage counseling for a number of years through our church too, and the people that I saw that were having good marriages trusted and liked each other. It's not always. Yeah, getting back to my wife is not, but
we could do another episode.
About marriage. Yeah,
me and Savannah. I don't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah,
me and my wife. We talked about.
I've lost my train of thought. I can't get. I don't even know what
all
I'm
right.
talking about.
I can help you out with that.
Okay, good.
I talked to her. She mentioned to me like, "Hey, I'd like to do one with you, a podcast." I'm like, "Actually, you know what? We can do one about being married.
That would be great.
Our first year of marriage and what it's like. A huge thing for me that I had to learn on how to communicate. Mm-hmm. As a man, I am not I thought I was a good communicator. I'm not. And with women, it is so difficult to talk to a woman.
Yeah.
It is so hard to talk caring to a woman.
I went, gosh.
I about swallowed my gum right there and choked. That was hilarious.
It would be, it'd be bad. I learned a lot about myself as my first marriage came to an end. I was just in constant conflict at home. I just hate conflict. I just hate it. And so I always tried to, at work, I'm in constant conflict. That's work. I mean, that is
but it's
always,
yeah,
it's different. When I go home, I don't want to have conflict. And so I didn't like to fight. So I just kind of, whatever, man, kind of an attitude, and just had a really unhappy marriage for a long time. And I start dating Lisa, and I'm at the time I'm I just had gotten through some counseling through my divorce, and the counselor was like, conflict's not bad. You need to stand up for what you think and what you believe, and you need to have that conflict. And I'm like, well, with my ex-wife, if I had conflict, it was World War III every time. I mean, she went from 0 to I want you out of the house, and we're getting divorced. And my parents are divorced, and so my number one fear was I didn't want to get divorced. So I mean, she went there like that. And my wife Lisa, she doesn't go there. We have arguments. We don't always agree on everything.
I'm still listening. I gotta check the battery on that, but I'm still listening.
Are we at the 4 hour mark, or is it been 6 hours, or?
We got 7% left. So
it's 7%.
7%. So we got a couple more minutes. And then we can finish.
I could talk about my beautiful bride for a little longer.
Well,
then
I encourage you to come if you want to come back on and talk about just marriage.
Yeah,
because guys like me that have a year on,
dude, I'd love to do that. Marriage is such a great institute, and we have such a strong bond with our family. We've got 7 kids, and I can look at the camera, I can look at you. I love all 7 of them like they were my own. I've got 2 biological. I adopted 2 from Ukraine, and I've got 3 through marriage.
Wow!
And I just couldn't be more proud of all of them. And as it relates to their relationship with me, I've got 3 that obviously have a different father, and I've really worked hard to try to not. I'm not their substitute father. I'm an extra father. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to take their father's place. I'm just another father in their life, another adult man that can give them guidance and help them through life, somebody they can trust and lean on, and be a role model for them. They don't do podcasts, so I don't think they'll see it. But I mean, I just love them all to death. I really do, and it is the absolute joy of my life, and that all comes out of my marriage and our belief that we put our family first, and we try to have a lot of family activities. We try to have some family vacations. With adult children, it becomes hard, but we dedicate money and time to enjoying those types of activities. So my wife, we were in 6th grade together. All right, and I started dating a girl. Dating is not the right word. We were going together, and it turns out I don't have a lot of long-term friends that I'm really active with from high school. They're on Facebook some, but I have some that I'm still active with from middle school and high school. That's cool. Even elementary school. I'm a friend collector. And one of my very good friends, Erica. I won't say her last name, but Erica and I were going with each other, and Erica decided she didn't want to go with me anymore. So she had Lisa break up with me. So Lisa and I never dated, but she broke up with me once. It's kind of the fun that we had. But we were in show choir together. We were show choir partners. We were in dramas, in all the plays together in school. Just if there was something to do, she and I were doing it. And just trust. I just always trusted her. She's got great judgment. She's a lot of fun. She works in the medical industry. She's got a degree in hospital administration, and she works for a company that does volume purchasing and consulting for hospitals. She has a couple of different hospitals that she's attached to, that she helps them become more efficient, more profitable, have better patient outcomes. That's what their company specializes in. I'm not going to give They won't pay me if I say their name, so we'll just leave their name out of it. But she enjoys her job. She's had a very, very successul career, and I'm very proud of where she's at in her career.
That's very cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome that you've known her for that long.
Yeah.
I really strongly encourage you to come back on to talk about just marriage.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff that guys I work with that, like one guy, Brandon Bennett, I know I've talked about him before. He just did an episode with me. While he worked with me, I asked him questions all the time, like, "Hey, me and Savannah were arguing. How should I have gone through it?
Yeah.
How should I have talked to her? What should I have said?" And then I'd tell him what I said, and he's like, "Well, there's your mistake.
You can't raise your voice. I mean,
Yes.
it's got to be mutual respect.
Yes.
You have to try to see it from the other person's perspective. I mean, Lisa and I just had a conflict the other day, and it came completely out of me not understanding where she was coming from, and it had been a simmering conflict for a couple of months, and her not really understanding where I was coming from. And once we finally got it all out, it's like, wow, I didn't know you were looking at it that way. But it didn't come out until we calmly talked about it.
Yes.
And you have to be able to do that, knowing and trusting that at the end of that conversation, there's still love. There's always love. And while you may not always agree, you always love each other.
Yes. No matter what. And I remember listening I'll look up videos online. I'll make this really quick and then I'll have to end it. But
we're at 5% now.
We're probably at 4 or 5%.
3.5.
But I listen to videos of old people talking. I love listening to old people.
Yeah.
And they don't most of the stuff that I would hear from old people when they'd talk about marriage, they'd say, never go to bed angry.
Yeah, that's
never
true.
Go to bed angry. And there has been a few times where she and I are going back and forth, and there's been times where she said we're not going to bed until we're happy, or I've said we're not going to bed until we're both happy. And then a big thing that we've been doing is 20-second hugs.
Yeah.
And you can't be mad for 20 seconds with not saying anything.
Absolutely.
And hugging a pretty hot woman. So we'll
good
be
for you,
we'll
man.
be fighting.
It's great that you're trying to make your marriage good. It is something that you have to try to do. No matter how much the chemistry is there, no matter how much you love your kids, no matter how much all that kind of stuff. If you don't like each other and you don't work on it, it's not going to work.
Yes.
It's just not.
And it makes it very difficult when I'd get bad advice from where I work. I'd get bad advice, and then I'd be like, that
didn't work.
That answer doesn't really honor God, for one. This is his daughter. That I've been trying to put in my head, if God was here, how would I need to respond? I don't do that every time.
Well, my wife and I we feel like we live in a godly home, and as God makes the man the head of the household, I am the head of the household. She put it to me early on in our relationship, and she said, "But I'm the COO. I'm the Chief Operating Officer.
Yeah.
I'm the CEO. I'm the Chief Executive Officer." And I'll spin this into a dad joke here in a second, and you'll laugh, and we can end it with this too if you'd like.
Perfect.
But so any of the major decisions that we have any sort of disagreement on, if we have to go one way or the other, it is my word that says this is the way we're going to go. This is the direction we're going to go. It is ultimately my decision. But all the day-to-day operational stuff of what you're doing, she's a chief operating officer. I come home, she tells me what to do, where to go. Okay, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I don't need to be in charge of whether we go to Kroger or Meijer today. You got it. And the joke of that is, and when we have a major decision to make, she's going to tell me when that is. But no, seriously, I mean, it is the respect that she has, that she understands that I am the head of the household. But when people take the thing out of context so bad, women need to obey their husbands, but men need to love their wives as God loved the church, and there was no greater love. So if you're not loving and respecting your wife, she's probably not going to take very much to your direction.
And he died for the church. He died for our sins.
He died for our sins. He died for the church. He died for us. So, that's how much we have to love our wives. And until you do that, it's kind of it's a yin and yang. They get along with each other. But if you don't have both, it doesn't work. If you're not loving your wife, she's not going to fall under your leadership, because you're probably not going to be leading her in the right direction. So that's my marriage advice. We can end on that. It is a good joke, though. Come on, she's got to tell me when the next executive decision happens. It hasn't happened yet, but
that was I strongly, like I said it 3 times now. I want you back on to talk.
I'll do it, man. I'll do it. Love to.
That would be great because
this
talk
is fun.
to a young guy about marriage, so that way I can have a positive outlook on a lot of things and decisions, and make sure I'm trying to do the right thing for both of us. And she's smart. I go to her a lot.
My wife's very smart too. I married up.
Yeah, I definitely married up too. She was way out of my league. She's the one that made this room.
Cool.
Yeah, I came home from work one day and she had all this done, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "This is your room," and I'm like,
"This is it."
All right,
I love this guy.
Beautiful. Yeah, that guy I got from a guy I used to be friends with. That he bought. He started renting out a building, but they left the beefcake burgers stuff in there, so he gave that to me.
Done, dude.
So, well, thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, man.
I learned a ton.
Oh,
and you're a pretty interesting guy, and I'm glad that we got to laugh too. That was
absolutely.
Great.
I'll do that. You got to laugh every day.
It's
got to be part of what you do.
I love to laugh.
Yeah.
You ask guys at work, that's basically what I do. But well, thank you guys for sticking around and watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think of Brady. Let me know in the comments on what you would like to see, or things that you enjoyed, or things you learned about him. Also, for the next video, just really share this. That way I can get some more people out, and then we can get some more fun people on. That way it can be just more fun.
Like more people that are fun, not more fun than me.
Correct.
Okay, good. I'm very competitive. In fact, I'd like to make sure that we get more views on this than we had on the other ones too. I don't know how we get to do that, but
my brother and I got like 450 views, and we're twins.
Yeah,
and we're both pretty dumb, and we got that many people to watch. We tricked that many people to watch.
There you go.
So
maybe we could.
This has been talented. So
we'll see.
This should be great. The Democrats stole my footage. Okay, folks, it didn't end there. There was more to the story, but the fake news is holding it back. So I'm sorry. The camera died, so I had to make this afterwards. My wife told me to do a Donald Trump impression. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the best YouTube channel on YouTube, probably, most likely, folks. So please share this video if you liked it. I'm sorry for the horrible impressions. I'm just trying to have fun with it, and I'm trying to learn more. So please give me a comment. Tell me what you like, what you didn't like. Also, share this with your friends. It really helps. I just spit right there. Corona, folks. China virus. So please share this with your friends and let them know that I'm really trying my best to get out a good product, and just trying to have fun with it. So whatever.